Very good afternoon, my dear friends. They've assured me these lights don't fall down even if you roar a good afternoon. Let's see if that works. Good afternoon. Awesome. I always believe the world is nothing but an exchange of energy, right? And if you want to unleash the true potential in you and your organization, one of the biggest factors is high energy, right? Absolutely. Great. So today I'm going to share with you my formula that has helped me be successful and help unleash my potential. And I'm hoping that it will help all of you to unleash the potential in you and your organization. And this is a formula which I call the VEST formula, where V stands for vision, E stands for enthusiasm, S stands for stress mastery, and T stands for trust. This is very important that when we are working with organizations, we wear the vest of excellence over our personalities. Because the research by Harvard University has shown that 85% of an executive's success at work is due to soft skills, only 15% due to technical or functional skills. And yet so many organizations and people focus on the technical and functional skills and leave out the soft skills, which make a hard difference. I did one program in the US where the US Coast Guard attended, and the training head told me, Nikhil, we need more sessions like this and not the technical and refresher trainings that we keep happening. It was a session on stress management, right? So what I'm suggesting to all of you, my friends, learn to develop your soft skills, whether it's communication, whether it's time management, whether it's team building, all these are very critical. Now, as I move forward with the West of Excellence, let me talk of vision. Vision is not the physical vision that I'm talking about. The vision I'm talking about is your psychological vision to see yourself and your company, say 5 years from now, 7 years from now, and then connecting your today with your tomorrow, so that you are on track with that vision. Because I always say, what you visualize, you can actualize. And therefore, vision is very, very important. Let me give you the examples of two non-visionaries. One, a company, and one, an individual. Western Union in 1846, when it was presented with the telephone, said, this telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. This device is of no value to us. Remember, after that, it required visionaries to work on that telephone such that today we are carrying smartphones in our pockets. I'm sure many of you remember that there were rotary dialers, the black dabbas that we had, where when you dialed a 0, sometimes it didn't come back and it got stuck at 7 or 8 and you got a wrong number. I remember when I was doing business and I had to speak to somebody, there were times when I was talking to a town, I could not speak to the person directly. It had to be via the operator. And my message was conveyed to the operator of that town, the operator to the other person, my client, and vice versa, right? It was such a big challenge to even communicate. And from there, going to the US, where I could buy a phone which was of my shape, my choice, my color, push button, and plug it into my rented apartment there. It was at that time almost magical. But who knew today that so many things are available on a smartphone because of visionaries who worked on the problems of the phones at that time. Let me give you one more example of a non-visionary. And this person was Daryl Janek, a movie producer in the US, who said that television has no market after the first 6 months. People will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night. And today we know that people are not tired of television. In fact, they sometimes now don't go to the theaters and cinemas as much as they do watch on thousands of channels available on television. So 2 examples of non-visionary to make a point that we need to be visionaries. I remember the HR vision of Intel. It says, great minds, big hearts, collaborating to make history. And that is why we find Intel inside all the computers and laptops so often, because it's an organization with great minds and big hearts. unlike organizations which have small minds and small hearts. Let me give you one more example of a visionary, and that is Walt Disney. I'm sure many of you have heard of Walt Disney, yes or no? Right? And Disneyland, right? And his vision to make people happy was what started the first Disney park. And that has resulted in millions of people visiting Disneyland every year. Therefore, vision is very important. And once you have that vision, you need to back it up with SMART goals, right? What does SMART mean? S is specific. Don't let your goals be vague. M is measurable. If your goals are not measurable, they sometimes become miserable, right? A is attainable. They should be realistic. R is relevant. They should be relevant to you. And T is time bound. If you don't have a time limit to a goal, it's only a wish. A goal is a dream with a deadline. When you put a deadline to it, for example, I have 250,000 participants so far, and I plan by the end of this decade to take that number to 500,000 people. So that's end of this decade is a deadline. The number is quantified. Then it becomes a goal, right? So vision is important. The next step is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm comes from the Greek word entheos. Entheos means full of life, full of energy, full of vitality. I always believe the greatest bankrupt in the world is not a person who doesn't have money. The greatest bankrupt in the world is a person who doesn't have enthusiasm for this beautiful gift of life. How many of us agree life is a beautiful gift? Right? Yes. And how we live in our life is our gift to the Almighty. Do you want to give an ordinary gift or a good gift? Right? So, living life with a positive attitude, because enthusiasm affects your attitude, and your attitude determines your altitude. There's a beautiful story of a black American boy. He was there at a fair in USA, and he was there with his father, and he said, "Father, I'd like to buy a balloon." So they went to the balloon man, and as they were approaching the balloon man had just released a white balloon into the air, and the white balloon went pretty high. So the black American boy looked at the balloon, and as they came closer, he saw that a black balloon was also tied to the balloon man's stall. And he asked the balloon man, balloon man, if you let go of the black balloon, will it also go as high as the white balloon? And you know where that question is coming from, right? There's racial discrimination, which was much worse earlier, but there is still racial discrimination to some extent in the US against the blacks. So he thought maybe the whites always go higher and not the black balloons also. And therefore, the balloon man gave a beautiful reply and said, "My son, it is not the color of the balloon that decides how high it will go. It is the gas inside the balloon." And similarly with us, my friends, for human beings, our gas is our attitude. Is it a positive attitude? Is it with enthusiasm that we definitely get better results when we are working for the organizations that we are a part of? So attitude determines your altitude, not your current facts and circumstances, and we are always capable of being in charge with our attitudes. For example, every morning when I get up in the morning, wherever I am, I just join my hands together and say, "Thank you, God, for giving me one more day to make a difference in people's lives." I just smile for no reason, so that if there's any negative energy of yesterday, it gets dissolved. And I also say that no person or situation will take away my inner smile today. So these small things take a few seconds in the morning, but it starts your day on a positive note. And when you start your day on a positive note, the week goes on a positive note, the month goes on a positive note, the years go on a positive note, and that affects the life, right? So V for vision, E for enthusiasm, S for stress mastery. How many of us agree that stress levels are rising worldwide? Right? Definitely. Before the pandemic, there was a lot of stress. The pandemic caused even more stress. After the pandemic, you got the Russia war, Ukraine war, all these things. You know, whatever you see, there is stress that is increasing worldwide. In fact, American Institute of Stress that says a survey shows $300 billion is the cost because of high levels of stress. And that's a lot to the corporate world in the United States. That is why they do programs on stress management on a regular basis. I often fly by helicopter in the oceans and run programs for companies like British Gas. Again, stress management being one of the topics because it's so important for them because they're working on the oil rigs in a very stressful environment. But that's what's happening even here. So we need to make sure that we have two approaches to managing stress. One is resolve stress, that is the application of the mind. And second is dissolve stress. How do you resolve stress? Three options. One, you accept the things you cannot change, right? Two, you change your perception over things that are causing you stress. And three, take some action so that stress becomes less. But even if you try your best, sometimes stress remains. So how do you dissolve stress? That is through listening to music, doing yoga, right? Some exercise. Exercise produces endorphins in your body. Endorphins are natural mood elevators and painkillers. And finally, of course, the power of laughter, right? There are many people who don't laugh, but we know laughter is the best medicine, isn't it? Right? So smile more often, laugh more often. And that's a way to definitely resolve your stress. Because if you don't manage your stress well, it's going to affect four things. What is it going to affect? Your productivity and performance at your work. What is it going to affect? It's going to affect your health. What is else it's going to affect? It will drain your energy and it will strain relationships. Yes or no? Right? You know, sometimes you go to work and whole day you're working, and when you come back, right, you're very fresh because you were not stressed. Some days you hardly done something, and by evening you're very tired and stressed out. So it is very important to ensure that we manage and master our stress so that we can be more productive and have much more energy than we are having so far. Managing stress will also help you take good decisions because life is ultimately nothing but a series of decisions, and the quality of your decisions will influence the quality of your life. If you're stressed out, you will not be able to take good decisions. But if you're relatively managing your stress well, your quality of decisions will be much better. So, V for vision, E for enthusiasm, S for stress mastery, and T is for trust. Trust in yourself, self-confidence, and trust in your team, because that's important to unleash the potential in the organization when the team is working as a team and not in individual silos. I mean, do you know how long it takes for the Formula One team to change the tires? How long does it take? Just a few seconds, 3 or 4 seconds, and the entire tires have been changed. And if you have tried changing even one tire of your own car, you know how long it takes, right? It's a very, very lengthy process. And therefore, it is important to realize that teamwork is very, very important. Teamwork makes the dream work and inspires you to much higher performance than what you have. All the good organizations in the world are a result of excellent teams. You may have heard of Jack Welch. Jack Welch was the CEO of GE, and he took over as CEO of GE. The turnover was only about $13 billion. When he left as CEO of GE, the turnover was $500 billion. That's a lot of multiplication of the turnover, only because he believed in, made sure that people were investing, and company was investing in the soft skills. He often talked of the 4 E's of leadership. And he said the first E is energy, people who have energy. But he also said the second E, which is I want people who can energize their teams, right? And the third, people with an edge, a competitive edge and a will to win. And finally, execution. The fourth E was execution. Those having a track record of getting results, not excuses. So friends, I am leaving you the gift of the rest of excellence today, right? E for vision, E for enthusiasm, S for stress mastery, T for trust. And I wish that all of you be not only very successful in your lives, but also be very happy in your lives. Because people who are only successful, who have all the trappings of success, they have all big houses, big money, big everything, big cars. I believe I call them not, and if they're not happy, I call them not successful. I call them successfuls. You know what I mean? Right? So we need to make sure that while we work and we make progress in our organizations, we also make sure that we have happiness and joy. That is very central to be a good human being. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure seeing all of you. Thank you.